I'm doing fine. Hello, folks. We just signed in. This was kind of a last moment scenario of signing in between Lizzie and myself. It's funny. Sometimes we get rushed, we get preoccupied. We like to give the impression this is well laid out and functional, but we do keep it spontaneous. And one of the things I've learned, and this might be a topic someday, Lizzie, in
Mm-hmm.
being married for a few years, that I've learned to patiently wait until the woman says, "Okay, I'm ready."
Smart man.
Well, I'm not sure it's smart or not, but anyway, that's I know that's kind of a biased statement, I would assume. But so we're sitting here laughing at ourselves. So good morning, folks,
Good morning.
and thank you for joining us. Some house chores here. That the purpose of these encounters is that Lizzie is, I call her this right brain ephemeral, whatever that word is, yin and yang philosophy, that holistic living and peace of mind and meditation. And I'm not knocking it because it's viable. People do it and people get a lot out of it. It doesn't make any sense to me because I'm that left brain functional persona that needs hardcore details and facts. I don't want chimes and wind blowing in the air or anything like that. So Lizzie says that this
So
is.
Buddha in a
So
Buddha
look
in,
at that. See, here we go. Here we
like
go.
Buddha in a globe.
She's lost me already.
Makes
so,
me happy.
so anyway, I'm trying to make sense of this because I want always to be a better person. I want to have a better life. I want to be more successful in what I'm trying to accomplish. And Lizzie claims she has the key to this. So anyway, house chores for those of you who are watching us, if not in the live performance, you can always watch in the replay. It's either by, is it YouTube? Is it by Zoom, I think, and Facebook. Now, please remember when you watch us through YouTube, you have to sign in through your Google account to be able to leave comments. But leave your comments with us. Please provide your questions because she is skilled. And I try to pin her in a corner, try to grab her where she can't squirrel away, and she's still free talking about the value of what she's doing. So, anyway, we don't rehearse this. I will provide her a topic, and so it makes sense to me that it makes sense to her. Then we work at it. So thank you for joining us. The topic for today, and I try to use Lizzie's comments. We began using philosophers, but she is also, and I think I get a better understanding of who she is talking eye to eye versus somebody who lived 18,000 centuries ago. So one of the topics that Lizzie will say is she says, give up complaining. I hope I spelled that correctly. I think I have too many INGs in it. I think
No,
complaining.
you're good.
Is
You're
that
good.
good? Okay,
No,
fair
that's
enough.
correct.
So the point is, I have had moments when something occurs to me and I'm hitting my head like, geez, I can't believe I didn't think of that. Well, that to me is a complaint, knocking my head. Back in the day when they had TVs, if it didn't work, you knocked the TV to get it to work again. So doesn't complaining work? I mean, how does it get in the way?
Oh wow. Complaining. I mean, it's like I guess it depends how you define it, but I mean, complaining the way I see it is we can only complain about things that are changeable. We don't complain about things that, I mean, some people complain about the weather, but they're not willing to move to somewhere that's warmer, right?
Yeah.
So you're only complaining about things that you're not risking, taking taking action on for yourself to change the situation, right? So it just leaves you feeling powerless, and it doesn't serve you any purpose. If you want to be successful, you have to take responsibility for whatever it is. And if you say you should have thought of that, okay, well maybe next time you will. With knowing more, you can do something differently, right? And it's just, most people, when they complain, and I catch myself doing it. My husband often will come to me and complain about somebody who said something to him on the phone. I'm like, you're talking to the wrong person here. If you complain to me about your wife, is that going to change anything? You got to go to the person, but we don't want to go to the person because we might not like what they say back to us. We
Right.
might risk being uncomfortable. We might risk confrontation, which a lot of us like to avoid, me included, how I
Mm-hmm.
used to avoid. But then, but by setting boundaries and by asking for the things that I want, which is what I do now that I know
Mm-hmm.
better, life works better. And
Well, I gotta ask you on that. You spent a few moments. I spent my few moments walking into this story, and you spent a few moments explaining it. But if people stop complaining, won't they run out of things to talk about? Because everybody I know complains. So that's the conversation in the group.
uh-huh.
So if you take away,
Well, I think again, if you want to hang around with people who are successful, you're
mm-hmm,
not going to hear the complaining all the time. It's the people that so you want to kind of veer away from the people who are although only talking about the complaining, and
mm-hmm.
look for the people who are actually out there doing things. And you won't find them. You'll find them talking about solutions rather than
I hear what you're saying, but then I think of the phrase "now misery loves company." Doesn't that favorite phrase kind of come with this?
it comes with complainers. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, again, I had to do like an inventory of the people that I was surrounding myself with, and I had to let go of some friendships that the first thing on the phone they would talk about is how everybody sucks. and,
Yeah, I kind of heard that.
and I'm like, well, about their job, about this, about their drive to work, and I just when I learned this stuff about how it does not, if you want to be successful, you got to give up blaming, complaining,
Mm-hmm.
excuse making. I started to say, I don't have time for this phone call.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, if something really was going on, of course, I am there to listen. We all go through things. Excuse me.
Sure.
Um,
But while you are taking a sip, I'm going to have a chance to sneak into this one.
but
Let's see, folks, learning to be married, having been married for a while, you learn to take moments of opportunity. So here's my counter question. And can't complaining be a catalyst? I mean, you talk about being successful. And I'm going to use business as opposed to personal life. And I think the two perhaps hopefully the same direction. But they talk it in marketing. They talk about learn people's pain points, discover what the complaints are. So isn't complaint a good basis of? So I'm coming in as a possible agent that say, hey, I can help you with those complaints. But if you have no complaints, or even relationships, I mean, am I making sense? The question that.
well, I think if you're going into like a business situation that you're hired as a consultant to come in to help them, do better. You start to look around and see what's going on, right? And then you got to ask the people involved, yeah, what are their complaints? You want their feedback, or even if you're not a consultant, if you're the boss and you want to make things better.
Well, let's talk about you in terms of what you do. Isn't one of the things you do in terms of if your clients had no complaints, would you have a business?
Yes, I do it all. I do it all the time. I mean, I have a client right now who came to me with lots of complaints about his relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and just it was just going of every week. It was kind of the same complaints and about the dogs and about and I was feeling like I don't know what to do for this guy. And he wrote down all his complaints, and then he wrote down all the things that he liked about. And I'm like, so we had to literally go through each thing. Are you willing to to do something about this, or are you going to compromise on this? Are you will? And it was a long process, and
Mm-hmm.
now he's literally in like an amazing relationship with her. He's got an area for the dogs that they determine, so the dogs aren't in bed with them. I have another client whose mother-in-law or actual mother was living in the house with them during COVID, and just it was a source of the mother was always criticizing, and it just took her shifting the way she responded to her mother, and just using different words and coming in with a nice thing to say to her mother, and the whole situation got so much better.
Mm-hmm.
So I help people change their response to whatever it is. I mean, you either stay in the job or you figure out a way how to make the job better, stay in your marriage, or you decide to leave because so it's nothing's gonna I think Alcoholics Anonymous that says, the definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing and expect a different result.
I hear that. So, as I'm hearing you speak, something comes to mind in terms of complaining, in terms of a value. I met a couple once that says, we've never had an argument. They've been married 15 years. We've never had an argument. And my wife knows somebody in the same category. Well, that tells me that they're perfect, and I can't conceive of that by any stretch. Or they don't communicate, they don't complain to each other to have dialogue back and forth. So in one instance, if you say stop complaining, this couple never complains to each other. So are they really in a relationship?
Well, maybe they do communicate effectively, rather than complain, rather
novel thought. I hadn't occurred to that one.
And actually ask for the things like putting the toilet seat down or whatever it is that might be some things that the other person requests of them, and they request them in a way that's not a complaint or a blame or you're bad. It's in a way like, out of consideration, let's work to make this a really peaceful.
See, I'm getting the yin and yang thing again. So I got my left brain just immediately kicks into that, and here I sometimes watch on TV in the background these divorce court things and relationship things, and they say there's always something about that person you're not going to like. Always, there's nobody's perfect, and I accept that as fact. In fact, let me put this differently: it's whoever I am as Joe. I would never, ever tolerate another Joe Wesley in my life. It just would not work out at all. I'll be the first to tell you that because of the issues about me that annoy me, but I can't escape myself. So I hear what you're saying, that they worked everything out and they have great communication. I'm having a hard time believing that. I guess that's kind of what I'm asking.
And they also may accept the parts of the person that they, like you were saying, the parts of you that that are annoying. They might accept the parts of the other person that are annoying. Like for example, my husband is very loud.
Right.
He's very loud. I mean, and his voice is not. I've tried to say, can you speak soft? It's just not going to happen. I mean, it's not, his volume is. And so it's either I'm going to just get annoyed with it every day of my life, or I'm just going to say, I love him and I accept that this is the way that he speaks, and that he speaks at a very high amplitude. And so I had to come to that, over time.
I hear that. Now, see, another concern as I have, and this likely will be another topic, how to be functional without becoming dysfunctional. I can think of people in I'll say extreme situation, abusive relationship, where they accept everything that's coming at them from that other person, and they kind of lose themselves. And they don't, I guess they don't complain. I don't know what that works to be, but isn't the challenges if you keep accepting, it could be kind of lopsided, and that person doing all the accepting or the majority of the accepting gets lost?
Because what happens is they just start to numb out and either become in resignation or, and that's.
So it kind of goes into that they don't ask for help. They don't complain.
They don't ask for help. They don't reach out for help. They don't ask for others to help them. They don't take some course to develop themselves. They don't say, they don't leave the situation. And it requires the person who's accepting all of that to do the changing, because that's all you can do is change yourself. You can't change anyone else. You change yourself and how you respond. So if you stop accepting that behavior,
right?
It's the same old thing we've heard many over and over. Like you teach people how they can treat you, and so. Until you take a stand, or you decide to accept some of the things, but some of the other things, like, if they're being abused, that's not something that is acceptable as far as.
I hear that. You've given me two new topics that come to mind. You said can only change yourself. Now I've been married over 25 years. And that's long enough to be a little bit seasoned with it, longer than many people have been living when I think about it. And sometimes every now and then something will still come up and say, geez, I never thought about that in terms of our encounter with each other? Why didn't you bring it up earlier? So, and it has had at times an impact on me. So sometimes it does affect, sometimes it's more like I can only change myself. I get that. I'm a little bit more proactive, that maybe with input nicely done, however you phrase that, maybe that person I'm with who's important to me may also modify, a mutual modification, and we're hitting our time zone.
Yeah.
Another one is that, and it's kind of, again, if you don't complain, you're not in a position to ask for help, I would think too. Now I understand solving problems. I don't mean to get off in another conversation,
Mm-hmm.
but if either of those two topics work for you,
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. And I think it's that what you're saying about yourself and your, and I know in my relationship is it's an ongoing process of all process of like unlearning and relearning and learning new ways of kind of showing up for each other.
yeah.
Um,
Well, see, here's my counterpunch, folks. I say this for the last moment of running out of time. The only way that person can get a different perspective is if I make a complaint, I would think. Now, a complaint may be a harsh way of saying it, but if I don't express some dissatisfaction to that person, then I don't see where there's an
No,
opportunity.
well, that is the person that you should be telling, not someone else. That's the
Okay.
only person that can do anything about it. Is
Okay.
you're
See,
the one who has to ask for it.
now it hits me. So it's not so much the nature that one complains, it's who you complain to, the value of it, the likelihood of being successful. Is that
Yes.
kind of what you're saying?
Yes, the way that you ask, the way. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that. Having a difficult conversation, but doing it in a way that's going to have with the outcome of not. It's not about about trying to dig the other person. It's about let's make this better.
Folks, you just saw an instance of how I try to hide it, how slow I can be. We spent 15 minutes of my hearing stuff that made no sense to me. In the last 45 seconds of saying, oh, now it makes sense.
Right. Yes.
So anyway, I guess we'll end on a good note. Anything you'd like to say to take us home?
Really, just just if you want to go from where you are to where you want to be, you got to take some risks. You got to be out there taking some risks and asking for what the outcome is that you want,
even if it means complaining.
without complaining.
Okay. Anyway, folks,
Give it up. Give it up.
Share your comments, share us with other people, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Thanks, everyone.